I'm Bill Burton, and it's time for us to take a look at the science behind the forecast as I am joined by Wave 3 meteorologist Tawana Andrew. Good morning, Tawana.
Good morning. Today's topic has to do with something that we've seen a lot of
Oh,
recently.
yes, and are still seeing because of the cold conditions. We're talking about snow and snowflakes in particular. Enlighten us.
So, snowflakes form when you have a cold water droplet freezing onto our particulate like dust or pollen as it floats through the atmosphere. And that is what creates the initial ice crystal. So, as this ice crystal just falls through the sky, eventually water will deposit onto it. So, that is what it's called, by the way, when water vapor turns to ice. It's deposition. If it's the
Okay.
other direction, it's
Uh,
sublimation. So put that in your water cooler facts for today. Uh,
Noted.
so yes, as that ice crystal falls through the sky, the water vapor will deposit onto it, growing the crystal and forming that snowflakes. Now, for a snowflake, the ice crystals are symmetrical because of the lattice structure formed along and between hydrogen's bonds. So a little bit of chemistry involved in this as well. So as you have those bonds between hydrogen forming and really creating these ice crystals, that is what you get. That is why you get that hexagonal, words are hard for me today, hexagonal six-sided shape. So we're going to keep an eye on more of that snow in the forecast. So you can think about those hydrogen bonds as the snow is falling. Um,
Okay.
so as the ice crystal continues to tumble through the cloud, the water vapor will continue to deposit more along its edges and its corners, and that is what's causing it to grow. So a snowflake can grow in two different ways: faceted growth and branched growth. With
Okay.
with faceted growth, you have the water vapor depositing on the edges of the ice crystals and leaves the face or of what's called the basal facet of the ice crystal smooth. And during branched growth, the water vapor accumulates on the corners of the hexagonal ice crystal. And as those corners grow longer and farther, then there are more locations for the hydrogen molecules to bond. And this is what causes those cool branches on a
Oh,
snowflake to form. And a
wow.
snowflake can switch back and forth, by the way, between faceted and branched growth as it goes through different environmental conditions. Temperature, humidity, very important as an ice crystal falls through the sky because that is what determines its shape. So let's say temperatures are near 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's pretty cold. You'll
Yeah.
end up with a plate-like crystal. These are a little bit flatter. When you have temperatures closer to 23 degrees Fahrenheit, you end up with more needle-like and sharper crystals
Hmm.
on a snowflake. And since atmospheric conditions are not uniform, each snowflake takes a slightly different path throughout the sky, and this leads to slight variations in the crystal's growth. And that is why, in majority of cases, that two snowflakes will not look alike. It can happen, but it's very, 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 very rare for it to happen.
The
Um,
odds must be astronomical.
yes, the odds are not always in its favor. So, but we're going to continue to keep an eye on those temperatures as they play a key role in the snowflake falling through the sky. And by the way, as we see those temperatures getting a little bit warmer, so slightly near or above freezing, what
Uh-huh.
happens is that with a snowflake, you end up with these tiny layer of water around its edges as it starts to melt with the temperatures being a little bit warmer. And as these snowflakes crash into each other, they start to clump together and create these fat, fluffy snowflakes. So those bigger snowflakes that you see,
Yeah.
it's not just one snowflake, it's a ton of them that are just, congealing together. And that is
Okay.
and that is why they look a little bit bigger.
That makes
If there's
sense.
Yeah, exactly. And if there is enough lift in the atmosphere, like near a front, then the snowflakes can remain suspended in the atmosphere longer and get larger before they reach the ground.
Hmm.
So you get those fatter snowflakes when a lot of the time there's a cold front involved. And by the way, snow
Yeah.
can still fall when temperatures are in the upper 30s and the low 40s if that warm layer of the atmosphere is shallow enough. So, yes, we can be above 32 and still get that snow falling down.
I'm sorry, snow when it's in the 40s, I'm vetoing that right now. That's just
Well,
wrong.
I understand. I agree. It can happen. It doesn't always happen, but it certainly can happen, and we'll have to watch for it.
There is so much to take into account when you think of something as tiny as a snowflake. It's absolutely amazing. But now we understand all of it much better thanks to this edition of Science Behind the Forecast with Wave 3 meteorologist Tawana Andrew. Thanks for the knowledge, Tawana.
Of course.